Because it's always
Nobody
like,
wants to be fishing in a video game for 5+ hours.
no, you want to be like going and whacking stuff with your sword, dude.
That's not part of fishing.
No, I'm saying that's what you would rather be doing than fishing.
Oh.
You know?
But if we're talking about strictly the fishing experience, what would you change about fishing games to make them less frustrating?
I would just delete them from the game, dude. Like, I would just not have them in my game. Welcome back to the Red Essence Games podcast. I'm Nick.
I'm Armand.
And we are Red Essence Games. We are game developers if you are joining us for the first time. And we also like to talk about games. So in this episode, we thought it would be fun because I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to talk about mini-games because there's a ton of mini-games in that game. And we could just talk about some memories and maybe what would actually make like a really fun mini-game as a game dev. All right, let's kind of dive right in. And before we go into talking about some maybe mini-game memories, let's just talk about like what are we saying constitutes a mini game in general, because a little bit before we were discussing like, okay, there are challenges in games, but then there's also things that are mini games themselves, which are like very specific, like you're trying to get some sort of reward or prize. So I would probably say that what constitutes a mini game is like it's a different type of mechanic from the generalized gameplay mechanic, because otherwise, you know, a challenge would just be like a more difficult version of something you're already doing, right? A mini game is like obviously a game within a game kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think there's the difference between challenges and mini games is usually in mini games it puts you in a completely different control scheme. You're controlling a different character. Maybe you're playing something on like a board or but there are some that blur the line, I think, especially like in games like Zelda, which we'll get into. But, you know, I feel like some of those games they're still part of the mechanics of the game, but they're still like kind of a
minigame-esque.
Yeah, you can win a prize or something. I think if you can win a prize in something, that's probably like it's probably a minigame.
Yeah.
And it's not just you're getting XP, it's like you get an item of some kind.
Yeah.
That.
Cool. So like I was saying, you know, and we said a little bit in the last episode, dude, FF7 Rebirth, first of all, one of the best games I've ever played. And I'm so biased because Final Fantasy VII in general, the world, I guess the original is like my favorite game of all time. But what's crazy about this new one, just to like lead into this a bit, is the fact that there's so much put into this game. It's like, it literally feels almost like a quadruple A game in terms of just like cutscenes, activities, the combat system. I mean, you played the first part remake, so you know like how intricate it was with all the different characters and enemies and how things tied together. So Rebirth really feels like even if they didn't include all this other stuff, I would still be like, wow, this is nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, some of the mini games are just like insane. So first of all, I'd say the first one you're really like wowed by when you dive into the game is a full-on card game. It's called Queen's Blood.
Okay.
And just to briefly explain the mechanics, you have a deck, and it's kind of like in The Witcher and Gwent, you get new cards, but you can even buy like little booster packs along the way and stuff, which makes it feel like you're getting new stuff. But it's like a board. I think man, I don't want to quote this wrong, but it's like, I think it's like a 3 rows of 6 basically.
Okay.
And
like Gwent. No, Gwent's
in Gwent though, it's kind of like, from what I remember, was you were kind of partitioned to a specific row, right? Like you lay down your card and you try to win that row.
Right.
So this is similar-ish, but what's kind of cool is like you put a card on the top, and basically it could affect the one underneath it, or it can affect the one to the side of it.
Okay.
And you start to claim spots on the board. So like you put a card here and you get a little green circle on the side and underneath it. Okay. And then you have the ability to put another card on one of your green circles.
I see.
So if your opponent puts a card and there's that space in between you, your opponent will claim that spot. Therefore, like being able to
a comeback mechanic.
A comeback mechanic. So on top of all that, there is a point system by row. So that's why you want to claim the spots, because each of the card has a point value. You want to have the most points per row in a very general sense. But dude, it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, they didn't have to do this.
Yeah.
They were just like, let's make a card game and put it in here. And I know you're not as experienced with the like older Final Fantasies, but there was a card game in 8, FF8 and FF9.
Yeah.
Did you play that one?
I didn't play
it. Oh, you didn't play it?
I didn't play actually I did not play 7. So
yeah,
originally
you got to play the original.
I know.
At some point.
Well, when I was a kid, I only had an N64 and I have PlayStation,
okay.
and I eventually got. Was it on PS1?
Yeah.
I eventually got a PS1, and I got Need for Speed Most Wanted.
Nice.
A Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 3.
Okay.
That game was fire.
Those are good games. Yeah.
And I had Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories. I had 2 games for PS1.
Gotcha.
So, but meanwhile, like all my friends had FF7. I just didn't have it. So
yeah.
And then as I grew up, I was just like, do I want to go back and play it? I don't know.
It's kind of hard to get back into, but I will say, like, to truly appreciate what they're doing with these remakes, it makes the experience a lot better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I would even say, before going into Rebirth, to play through the original. What's cool about the Switch ports and stuff like that is, like, they know how kind of brutal these games are. So, like, you can, I know you wouldn't do this, but like you can do like an infinite life system, or like, you instant max out all your characters. But I think at the very least, what's really nice about these old RPGs that they're remastering is you can like triple speed the combat.
Oh,
so that's something that I do.
They're like emulated, right? In a sense. So you
yeah.
can just kind of speed them up.
Yeah, because I think that's what makes it, I don't want to call it a slog, but I think some of these other RPGs, it's like the going into the battle, you know? Yeah, they're just standing there for a while. So I think especially if you're just trying to get through the story, like that's a good way to just kind of blow through it. And then it kind of eliminates some of the grinding, because you can just fight battles really quickly. But what I think what's nice about FF7 is it almost feels like, or at least the Rebirth, it feels just like an homage to classic RPGs in general. Like, it has some of the like kind of cliche moments, and with all the mini games, there were actually a lot of mini games in the original FF7. So there was like
what?
Minigames. So for example, like, do you remember in Remake, there was Cloud on his speeder bike, like, and that was a part of the game.
Right.
So that was actually a mini game.
Oh.
Like, you could go in and you could actually like do the thing where you like whacking the guys from the sides.
Oh, okay.
From what I remember, I think there's also like a boxing kind of mini game. There's a snowboarding mini game. Like, literally, you like snowboard down a mountain. And as a kid, I was like, this is the coolest thing in the entire world, dude.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, and I guess this is where it kind of blurs the line a little. There'd be challengey kind of things where there'd be a door, and they'd be like, oh, both of us need to pull down the lever at the same time.
Right.
So it would be like a timing thing. And it was another one of those things where it's like, it didn't need to be in there, but it's those moments that kind of make the game memorable. And I think that's also what mini games do, in a sense too, because they're like this drastic shift from what you're used to playing along the way. They stand out, especially the good ones, obviously. Whether or not they're like super frustrating or actually really fun, they're like this way for us to be like, oh, I'm taking a little pause from what I've been doing, and I'm like getting to experience something new.
Are there any mini games in FF7 Rebirth that are frustrating, you think?
Bro, last night my wife and my baby were sitting next to me on the couch while I was doing this one, and Grace was just cracking up at me, dude. I'm not a controller thrower, but I was about to be last night. So do you remember in Remake, there's the pull-up contest that Tifa does? You're in the gym, and it's like you have to hit like square, triangle, circle.
Oh yeah,
square,
something like that. Well, she's like going. It's like she's going from one to another. Or?
No, she's just straight doing pull-ups.
Oh, okay.
But it's like there's a pattern on the screen that you have to hit with the buttons, and then what? But this is where it's triggering, dude. It's like after a while they just turn off the button prompts, so it's like you don't even know if you're hitting it at the right time. You literally have to feel it out.
Okay.
All in the meantime, the music is completely out of sync with what you're trying to hit. So
that's tricky.
So what with the new one, dude? Tifa's doing sit-ups this time because of course she is. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're like, oh, we have the new PS5 controllers. We have adaptive triggers.
Right.
It's not a it's worse, dude.
Oh.
It's worse. So
I thought it was gonna be like you take the controller and you have to like do a sit up.
Nope. You're going like L1, R1, L2, R2, L1, R. But then Tifa gets kind of stuck. So they're like, it would be fun if you hold the trigger halfway and then a little ring goes around, and then when it gets to the end, you have to click it all the way in. But it's so finicky that half the time you're like, I did this right. And then it just resets you. And of course, like, you know, for a normal human being, it takes 15 seconds to like redo your sit-up, right? Because that makes complete sense. Of course. Yeah. Meanwhile, your opponent's like, huh, 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 like the numbers just going up. You're like, I hate you.
Yeah.
So
I remember now there was it in FF7 where you go and there's like a gym?
Yeah.
You have to fight the guy,
it's
right?
The same.
No, it's a push-up contest or something with Cloud.
It's a pull-up. It's the pull-up contest.
Pull-up contest.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I struggled with that.
Bro, it's the same guy. Yeah. He comes back and he's like, do you remember this thing you hated in the last one? Well, you're going to do it again, but it's worse.
Yeah.
So there's that one variation where you hold the trigger and there's the ring, and then there's another one where you have to jam on the trigger. But sometimes you'll hit it one too many times and it will lead into the next one. And then you hit it and it just resets you and you're like, oh my God. So here's a pro strat for you.
Okay.
Just completely turn off the volume and it shows you it a couple times so you feel it out, and then you just look away and you're like boom, 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 boom. You just have to feel the beat, man. Yeah. That's the only way I did it. And I'm an insane person. I like to platinum these games. Otherwise I would have not done this one. But I was like, you have to do this if you want to complete the game, you know?
I don't know how you platinum all those games. Like I would just drive myself crazy trying to platinum games like that.
Well, I drive myself crazy, man. Yes. I don't know, dude. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I don't know. It's just something I like to do. But yeah, man. So that one was like rage inducing. But there's other ones. I don't think I told you about this one, but there's a literally a piano. So you basically like tilt the sticks in a certain way to like play the music.
Oh yeah, I've seen like random YouTube videos of people doing that.
Yeah. I literally sat there for 30 minutes one night because I was like sleep deprived and I was just messing around. I was like, I'm gonna learn how to play the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance on this thing. I gotta show you the video later, but I did it. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, there's like a actual minigame portion as well where you get sheet music. And then they almost like a rhythm game. You get to kind of like
play
along with it.
That's pretty cool.
So that's fun. And then of course there's the NPC that's like, I am the wizard of the piano, so come report your score to me and I'll give you a prize, you know?
Right, yeah.
So that one was fun too. Okay, there's this other one as well. That's and I'm trying not to, I don't want to like spoil all of them, but dude, there's just so freaking many that like I'm not even tapping the surface. There's one where your whole party gets turned into frogs. You know that status effect?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Cloud he's a frog, but he still has his little sword on his back. But the mini game is there's this thing that's like spinning around and you have to like hop over it. But the platform starts falling away. Kind of reminds me of like Mario Party mini games. Okay. And you basically just have to stay on as long as you possibly can.
Right. Like a Fall Guys type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that one was fun too. And then the last one that's actually pretty intricate that's cool is Fort Condor. And again, that's a callback to the original. It was a mini game in the original. So basically there's this like what do you call it? Like a mountain almost. And at least in the original, and there's these little NPCs that slowly start walking up and you have to start placing units and defend the tower kind of thing. So in the new game, they have a modern version of that, which has been like really, really cool.
What about that tower defense is different from a regular tower defense game?
There's nothing that I haven't played too many tower defense games, so I don't have a lot to like compare it to necessarily. But I think it's the fact that they're stat based. I guess normal tower defense is kind of stat based.
Yeah, I mean you level up your defenses and that's your stats, I guess.
Yeah, I guess in a tower defense game it would be like more intricate. You're kind of trying to like grow stuff. In this, it's like just around, you know, like they give you a preset units and you just have, it's more like a puzzle. It becomes a puzzle because you're like, how do I place my units in the correct way at the correct time so that they don't get killed and I'm like totally out of guys.
Right.
So that one's been pretty fun too. But dude, it's just like the whole experience. You keep getting to these new areas too, and you're like, this is just gorgeous. Like everything is beautiful about the game. And yeah, man, I'm just
because this one is all outdoor, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of outdoor. And it was honestly kind of shocking to me when you told me that all of FF7 Remake takes place within like, you said like an hour.
I would say. Oh,
you said 5 minutes and then you said an hour, so that was kind of confusing.
No. I said 5 hours.
Oh,
yeah, the Midgar portion of the original, it's
Right.
kind of, if you're taking your time, is like 5 hours of the game, I would say, give or take.
Okay.
But then you have like 45 to 50 hours still left of games. So
that's crazy to me because I played through that and I was like, wow, that was a really long game. But
dude, but that's what's insane because I know the story and they're being relatively faithful to the main story beats of the original.
Right.
So that's what's nuts is like, I know the things that are supposed to be coming up and I'm like, how have I not gotten here? Dude, I have 35 hours in the game and I'm like, I don't even know if I'm halfway. And I'm sure they're going to do a hard mode and they're going to have all these other things that is going to make me want to get back into it.
Right.
Even after I've beaten it. But dude, it's massive.
You're not playing it on hard already?
There's only normal, but then they unlock hard because they want you to play it like 8 times. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Honestly, and I was saying this to Grace when I was telling her about my experience with it, but you played The Witcher 3.
Oh, I love The Witcher 3.
Did you play the DLCs too?
I did. Yeah, I beat
Okay,
both.
so the Blood and Wine one, you know, where it like opens up and it's really blue, pretty skies. I feel like most of FF7 Rebirth aesthetically has that kind of vibe. And I would say vibrant. Yes. Right. And I would say out of any video game I've really ever played, Witcher 3 is, I can compare it to the most because Witcher 3 felt so dense in terms of like, you're constantly going to new towns. There's constantly new people to talk to and stuff like that. But imagine The Witcher 3 and how much stuff there was to do. And then you have like a ton of party members who also have their own character arcs and personalities. And you can play as them. So that's why it just feels like, how did they build this thing? It's nuts, man.
It's truly like a feat of programming and art.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. I mean, I can't even imagine making a game like
Dude,
that.
I know.
I know they have teams, like so many people like working on these games.
Like literally.
But maybe we can make like a makeshift 2D version and like a game jam or something.
But yeah, man, it's been awesome. So yeah, I'm excited for you to play it at some point so we can like talk about it more specifically. But why don't we go on to just like some generalized minigame memories? Like why don't we start off with like, okay, what's like the first minigame that comes to mind for you? Like just on the spot. Like what's
something? Well, I've been playing Sea of Stars a lot lately, so I love the Wheels game that's in there. Yeah. It's like simple but intricate too. It's like when you first start, you're like, I have no clue what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you can't even find the right button to spin it because it doesn't tell you what the you just press buttons until it works. But yeah, you just like, you kind of like start figuring it out as you're playing. Yeah. And it's like a slot, right? But then you have to kind of lock in certain little, what do you call it? The images on the bottom.
Yeah.
And you
it's
have to
almost
level
like
up.
a slot machine slots.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But you have to like strategize not only which characters you're picking for it, but which character. Yeah, like you have to look at the opponents and see like, okay, they're running like a warrior class. Like, that means I want to run like an engineer because the engineer like builds the wall while he's attacking. So it's like it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You know, but the warrior is so strong. It's like, you know, if you're up against characters that they don't put up wall defenses, then it's perfect. So I found that to be really fun about it. At least in the more recent memories of minigames.
Yeah.
So
and what I like about that one too, and this is something we'll talk a bit more about, like what do we think makes a good minigame, but I like that you it builds upon that minigame as you adventure because you get new units to play with. So it's not just like a one and done thing. It's kind of like this. It almost becomes another mechanic in itself throughout the adventure, which has been really cool.
Yeah, and you seek out like the different Wheels champions, which is pretty cool. Each one kind of has a different strategy, and it's up to you to figure out how to beat them. And then you get, like you said, you get new Wheels, and then you also get new characters too.
Dude, I didn't even think about. Yeah, you get new Wheels that are the slots, right?
They're like, I think they're like improved slot. Like
Got it.
You have a better chances of getting better stuff. That's what I think it is, but
it's some of the mechanics are not entirely clear.
Yeah.
I know that in the how to play, there's like a whole section, but even the way it's
which
written
is really nice,
a little,
by the way.
it is.
That, that's why I'm always like a stickler about just, I feel like back in the day there was a lot of moments where you had no clue what you're doing at all. But I feel like nowadays in gaming, it's people get frustrated so fast. Like it was helpful to really have that guide to look at, and even though I didn't fully understand everything right off reading it, I at least could see something in the mini game and be like, what is that? And then I'd go and look it up. Type of thing. So that I thought was pretty good idea.
Yeah, definitely. In FF7 too, there's that whole like how to play thing too, that you can reference all of the mini games. Like I think that is a nice like modern touch. I remember this is kind of a tangent, but I played a couple years ago I Am Setsuna, and they have like really complicated mechanics. And it's just to the point where it's like tapping certain buttons at certain times, but there's no, at least from what I remember, no way to like go back and like remember.
Right.
Like there's no like tutorial page to be like, is it ZL or ZR?
Okay, yeah.
That you click. So stuff like that. It's nice with modern games. So yeah, we spoke a bit about Gwent. That was another one that's like, dude, like they didn't have to put that in there, but it made that experience so much more fun.
Yeah.
Because you get into a new town and you're like, I know I'm gonna find a guy that I'm gonna beat, and he's gonna be harder than the last guy.
This is gonna be a hot take, but
you didn't like it, right?
I didn't like Gwent.
Oh, dude, I liked it.
I didn't find it that fun. I don't know. It just there was a couple times where I would beat it and I was just like, wow, okay.
It was on the more simple side, maybe. I'd actually be interested in seeing what you think of this Queen's Blood game in FF7. Okay. But because it's kind of similar but kind of different.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I liked Gwent. I liked that it was on the more simple side. Did you play like all the matches?
No, I mean, I kind of stayed away for Gwent, to be honest, because like I said, it wasn't my favorite aspect of the game. Which stinks because I like card games.
I know, you're a really big card game
I'm a big card game player, and it just, the aesthetic and like, I don't know, just didn't like vibe with me, honestly. So maybe if I were to play through it again, if there was like a remaster in the future, I'll definitely give it another try.
Yeah.
Off the bat, it wasn't really that fun for me.
It did make me think of another one, actually, and I know you didn't play this game either, but in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, there was actually I forget what they called it, but it was like a dice rolling game, and it was one of these things where like each side of the die had like a shield or a helmet or a bow and arrow, and it was kind of one of those things where like, I'm sure you've seen games like this where you roll 5 die and then you get to decide if you want to pull some away. So, and you have 3 chances in your turn to kind of roll your set you want to stick with.
Right.
And then depending on that, you can attack and like defend or whatever.
It's like wheels.
Like
Same
wheels.
concept,
Yeah. So that one was really cool too.
Mm-hmm.
I think I do tend to gravitate more towards the type of mini games that have that more like board gamey aspect. But some of the other ones that I'm thinking about, like, dude, Zelda mini games, I'd say most of the time are just straight up enraging, and maybe that's like part of the charm of the game,
right?
But half the time you're like, oh dude, why did they do it like this?
Yeah.
So like I don't know, the first one that came to my head when I was thinking about mini games was the in Skyward Sword the bamboo chopping one, where you just have to like go this. And because the Joy-Con or the Wiimote at the time was like a little bit imprecise, you're like, I know I cut that right, you know?
Yeah, there was kind of like a rhythm you had to go to it. I actually really like that game. I don't know. I feel like it frustrated a lot of people. I just didn't like the toe boss. That fight frustrated me so much because it was so janky. Like sometimes you'd land on the toes and he'd like pick his leg up and you kind of like
you like go flying and then you gotta like run up that like spiral ramp again. Yeah.
So, but I liked the sword mechanics. I feel like that was a cool thing. It wasn't perfect, but I don't know. It was an interesting addition to Zelda, in my opinion.
Did you play the Switch remaster?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I was thinking because I was like, didn't I get the Wind Waker remaster on Switch? And then I was like, no,
No,
I
that
didn't
was
get
on
that.
Wii U.
On Wii U, yeah. I was like, I didn't get that either.
Yeah.
Um,
I wish they remastered.
yeah.
On Switch,
Mhm.
but yeah, man. So the other type of mini game that just infuriates me is just straight luck based mini games.
Oh yeah, don't even get me started on those. The one in Tears of the Kingdom where you fixed it, you take so much time to fix that town, and then they're like, oh, we'll offer like a mini game here, and then you go back there and you can see the 3 prizes,
Oh,
and
that's
you
right.
get like a chance to get one.
Yeah.
I was like, ah, it's so lame.
Yeah.
Which brings me back to like the old era style of mini games where like in Ocarina of Time, I love Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
One of my favorite games of all time. But they had really awesome mini games, right? Like you would go to the town, and they had some really good ones. They had the same treasure one, but instead of just picking one treasure, if you won, you got to go and pick another treasure.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of had to keep getting lucky.
But that was enraging too, because it's like you had to get like 3 or 4 in a row to get the heart piece,
right?
And you're like, dude, if I want to max out my heart pieces, I just gotta keep doing this over and
yeah.
over.
But that's what made it addicting, in my opinion, because you were like,
it drove me nuts.
You just like go in, you're like, all right, I got it this time.
Yeah.
Like, you just keep trying.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was definitely a little aggravating from time to time, but that's like has so much more substance than just like pick one and it kind of So, and I know Sea of Stars has one like that too, which I wasn't a huge fan of.
I wasn't a huge fan, but I knew how to like get through that one, because what I did, at least, I think to get the like good reward, you had to pick the correct chest 10 times just in general. So I would just go in, pick the left chest, go out. Go in, pick the left chest, go out. And I just kept picking the left chest because it's like, 33% chance you're going to get it correct.
Right.
Which kind of makes it like a dumb, then it's just like, I don't know, why would you do it,
Yeah. No, for sure.
I know that whole game is like kind of a callback homage to old RPGs, so I get it, but like, I don't know, just in general, the luck-based games are like kind of annoying.
They're kind of annoying. It's like, I feel like if you're in like a zone where you're doing mini games, there's always one luck-based mini game.
I know.
And then the others are skill-based.
Yeah.
There's like an aiming one, like at least in Zelda, you had the slingshot, and I think there was an arrow one too if you came as an adult.
Yeah.
And then there was the bomb chew one, which was super fun because
you
had to like
aim
look
it?
at the wall. Yeah, you have to like look at the wall.
Yeah.
And figure out how to get the bomb chew to like run along the wall.
That's right.
Like
because you drop it down and it auto moves, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But you can put it down in a direction.
Yeah.
So that's how you kind of.
And weren't the walls spinning too? So it would kind of like pull it, like it would go up the path and it would start like pulling it. So you had to like really time it.
Right.
I
think one of them, like the last one,
or maybe
was
the
really
whole
hard like that.
thing was spinning. I forget.
I can't remember exactly. But I think one of them there was like a part of it that was rotating.
Yeah.
Or something. And there was like something that you could hit. There was like a cuckoo that you could hit, like that was just walking around.
Then they like 10 of them would come out and attack you.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is such a tangent, but I keep seeing that meme rolling around where it's like, and from the wise words of Link.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, yes, this was my childhood.
Yeah.
Oh my god, so good. Yeah,
that's
man.
From Ocarina of Time too. Those voice lines are from Ocarina of Time.
They are. But Link like always sounds like that,
Yep.
But yeah, man, I think with the archery mini games, like those are also hit or miss, where it's like some of them you're just like, why does it go this fast? But then other ones where you're like, I think that's another way to think about a good mini game is like it makes you feel like you've used a skill maybe in the outside world and really gotten good at it for the mini game. So like you like got good at aiming your arrow. Now you're in the arrow mini game and you're like, I'm a master at this or whatever.
Right.
Like it's testing you on your thing. But I guess that's where it then kind of blurs that line in terms of like, is this a challenge or is it a mini game?
Yeah, no, for sure. It almost feels like a challenge, but also the thing about those is like it almost feels like it's instanced away from the game, meaning like you're not in the actual game world anymore. You're kind of like in this other pocket of the game
zone.
Right. Especially in like Ocarina of Time, okay, you go into like one of the shops and it almost feels like you're in like a new zone.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels segmented from the game, which that gives it kind of like a mini game feel.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I wanted to talk a bit about Pokemon mini games because Pokemon has mini games too throughout its games,
and they are also hit or miss.
They are also hit or miss, but one that I really want to highlight in particular is Voltorb Flip. And I'm sure there's people out there that know about this one because it was pretty popular. And basically, it's a game that's kind of like Minesweeper, but there's a bunch of Voltorbs sitting in the on the grid, and you had to use cross-reference to figure out like which ones had Voltorbs on them, which are the tiles.
Yeah.
So that was super fun, and that was like in the slot machine like rooms.
What game was that in?
And I think it was in Sapphire. It might have been in Gold or Sapphire. It was Gen 2 or Gen 3, I think. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, you would show up to the casino area, and the casinos are fun too.
Yeah.
Honestly, we spent so much time, me and my friends, when we were kids, playing in those. And yeah, I mean the Voltorb Flip was super fun because the music was really good. It just added to like that feeling of playing the mini game.
Was it the same way as in like Red and Blue, where if you got enough points, you could like actually purchase Pokemon from the vendor?
I think so.
Because that's what was cool about the Red and Blue. Even though I hated the slot machine system, I think you could get Porygon, right?
Porygon, yeah.
As like
and
one
a Dratini.
Yeah.
Porygon and Dratini and something else.
Yeah. So that was cool. But yeah, dude, the slot ones though was just like impossible. I remember when I replayed Red recently, I literally had to look up a guide like, how do you even do this? And like the internet was so like divided on like, no, this is the method to do it correctly. Right. And I ended up just getting, I'm like, I'm not going to get these Pokemon.
What, on the slot machine?
Yeah, dude.
Oh.
Yeah, because you have to
everybody
get like
has to come up with their own theory on how to beat the slot machine. You got to wait until you see one picture specifically, like it's like a Krabby or like a Meowth. You're like, I saw the Meowth.
Dude, you have to move the truck with move, and then you get Mew.
Oh my gosh. Some troll on the internet ruined our lives. Oh man.
Yeah. Oh dude.
I just even thought of, you know what I just thought of? Smash Bros.
Did they have
Smash Bros.
The bat mini game.
The bat mini game.
Yeah. The one where you jump around through the level.
Get the targets. Oh yeah, get to the finish. Race to the finish.
Yeah.
And also break the targets.
Yes. Yeah.
And every character had their own like level to complete.
Yes.
So that was really cool too. That's a mini game.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, sure. Definitely, because that was like completely different than the main fighting mechanics. But yeah, those were fun, man. It's like it is crazy to think about how they just totally diverted from main Smash. We're just like, okay, we have a bat in the game. Let's like make that a mini game in itself.
Right. Yeah. No, I think there's so many cool mechanics that from that game. And then we were talking about Pokemon before that. Going into Smash. I had another point I wanted to bring up about. In Smash, there was a rumor on the internet that if you beat the classic mode on very hard with Roy or Marth, you unlocked the secret level.
Some like impossible
thing, man. I spent so many hours trying to beat the game with Roy.
Oh my god.
I was like it was classic, very hard, and I think it was only like, was it 1 life, or you might have been able to have 5 lives, but it was like you couldn't lose.
Yeah.
And it was so hard.
Yeah. And then you have to fight the hand at the end, right?
Yeah. And I don't know if you remember, but in classic mode your health doesn't go away, like the health you take. So you have to
that's
beat
impossible.
Yeah, so that's what made it so difficult back then. And then, it was just a rumor.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I still don't know to this day if it's a rumor or not. I gotta double check on that. But,
oh my god, dude! Yeah, those old school rumors were like literally the best.
Yeah.
So the other one too is the Sonic Adventure 2 Chao
Garden.
Yeah. Actually, wait, am I thinking about this correctly? Maybe it was just on, I didn't have a Dreamcast, but I think that game was on Dreamcast also, right?
I don't know.
I think it was, because that was GameCube Dreamcast.
Well, they had Sonic Adventure, first one.
I think there was something along the lines of like, if you know how the Dreamcast had that weird little like thing?
Cartridge thing?
Yeah, with the like, it had a little mini screen on it. I think there was something along the lines of like, you could like port your chows into it or something?
That was from Game Boy Advance, I think. It was from Game Boy Advance to the GameCube version.
Oh,
so in the
okay.
Chow Garden, there was like a little like Game Boy Advance looking
Got
thing,
it.
and you could, yeah.
And they had
move
that
the
in
Chow back and forth.
the original Wind Waker too, right? They had some like tingle quest. I think so.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't have that connector. I always wanted it, dude, but it was like at the time for whatever reason they were like impossible to find. And it's like then you needed the Game Boy
So
Advance, the cable, and
Right.
the GameCube and the game.
Right.
And my little like 10-year-old bank account couldn't afford that, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, dude, the Chow thing was fun, just being able to like raise them, and
Oh,
they got different stats and stuff too, right?
yeah. I mean, me and my brother, we spent hours in the I'm saying hours in the Chow Garden, and like we found a way to just farm those little. They're called chaos drives, but we call them lakum things because when you pick them up, they go lakum. So we call them lakum things, and
amazing.
I'm sure everybody has their own name for them because it's so like weird. Why is it called a chaos drive?
I don't know.
Anyway, you had to play Eggman because Eggman, when he pets the Chow, he says, "Gosh." So, but if you also went in there, this was a cool mechanic too.
Yeah.
Was based on the characters you raised them with, they became dark or light.
I
And
played dude, I think also this was a game I rented from Blockbuster, so I don't have that like long history with it.
Right.
But I remember playing it.
Yeah, and there was different gardens you could unlock for the Chow. So there was a
Okay.
dark garden and a light garden. Basically, the way you train them, you could evolve them. So basically, they go back into an egg, and then they like pop out again, like a rebirth
weird.
almost. It was kind of strange, but
Yeah.
really cool. And then you had to feed them one of every animal, and you had to play through a bunch of the levels to find the little animals.
Oh, gotcha.
And each animal gives, first of all, it changes the Chow's appearance,
Okay.
and then it also changes certain stats. So you could customize a Chow with whatever stats you wanted. If you want them to be like stronger while they're fighting in the karate, or like run faster.
But like they didn't. This is another example of like they didn't have to add this into the game.
I
They're
know.
just like, let's just do it, and it almost becomes another part of that Sonic game, right? Because like the Chows don't affect the gameplay at all, right? You're just raising them to do stuff in the mini games. Like, what do you even win for feeding them? I don't remember.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you just get glory.
Yeah.
It's cool because it's like you're almost like raising a kid. They're like they
felt like-
become your kids after a
Well,
while.
also
you
it was like,
know? Like you're cheering them on in the races, and like
yeah.
in karate, you're like, "I'll beat that." You know.
It was like the Pokemon kind of vibe too. Like you're collecting stuff and you're
Yeah,
like
yeah,
growing
yeah.
them and whatever.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's really funny. Oh my god. Okay, this is the other one too that is like the bane of my existence, dude, is freaking fishing mini games. Like
yeah.
I lose my mind anytime. And obviously I think it's like because a lot of the games we play are Japanese RPGs and obviously like fishing and-
Staple.
yeah, it's a staple, but it's like, dude, they all suck, man. Like none of them are fun. Like none.
It's hard to make fishing fun.
Unless you're into fishing, you know, but it's almost like fishing in real life,
Yeah.
even though you're sitting around for like hours and hours, is more fun than fishing in a mini game that's like 5 seconds. Because it's always
Nobody
like
wants to be fishing in a video game for 5+ hours.
no, you want to be like going and whacking stuff with your sword, dude.
That's not part of fishing.
No, I'm saying that's what you would rather be doing than fishing.
Oh.
You know?
But if we're talking about strictly the fishing experience, what would you change about fishing games to make them less frustrating?
I would just delete them from the game, dude. Like I would just not have them in my game. It's always one of those things where it's like, in order to unlock the final armor, you need to catch the biggest fish in the game. And you're like, how does this like connect at all? Like, why are you making me
I
do
think
this?
that adds to the charm of it. Though.
No, it doesn't, because then the biggest fish is like you have to steer it back to you in like the
Right.
precise
You have
way.
to be like upside down in
Yeah.
your chair.
Yeah,
Like,
or you have to use like the Wiimote motion control or something. You're just like
yeah.
just reel in, dude. I
Right.
even in Sea of Stars, like I would say that's in terms of fishing minigames, it's a better fishing minigame. But dude, there's this one fish that just like when it gets like 3 feet away from your character, it's just going like left and right, left and right. And you're
Right,
like,
right.
how am I supposed to like get this guy in?
yeah.
I was trying to catch this stupid fish for like literally 20 minutes.
Mm.
And
You can get upgrades that make it easier to fish
you can.
in Sea of Stars. Yeah.
I just haven't gotten there yet. I guess.
Okay. Yeah. You upgraded like your town?
No.
Okay, then. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Once you upgrade the town, you get like perks because you
that
find,
makes
like, a
sense.
fisherman and stuff.
Okay, I got it. I kept being like, dude, like, why is this absolutely impossible?
No, I added all those upgrades on myself because I was like, fishing is fun, but I just want to beat the fishing and be done with it.
Well, for me too, like we were saying before, I'm like a collector kind of person, like a completionist as much as I can be. And you go to the fishing lakes, you see the little sign, and it shows you the slots you're missing for the fish, which is a cool mechanic. Cool, but then it's like, I need all the fish now,
right?
You know, so I'm sitting there with my little joystick, just like trying to get it the whole time.
I'll have to say though that the fishing in Ocarina of Time was, I mean, I was still young and it was my first fishing experience, but that game was memorable. That fishing experience was memorable to me because, like I said, like you get there, it's like on the other side of the lake. You get there, and it's like you're in a completely different part of the game. And there's just this lonely guy. He's itching his armpits for whatever. He's like, hey, you want to fish? And you start fishing, but you have to kind of like find the big fish in the water, and you can see the guy, but you keep trying to get him, and he's just ignoring you, and you have to like. They did such a good job of making you have to like pester him.
Really?
Pester that fish. Like you just like drop
dude.
the line right on top of his head, and you go like bum bum bum, and he just like
you get their attention.
Yeah, but like sometimes they just won't. Like you'll drop it right on his head, and he'll just ignore it. And you have to keep getting it right on that perfect spot.
Yeah.
Just wiggling it a little bit until he's interested. And then even if you get him interested and he catches, you might not even pull him all the way because it wasn't a guaranteed thing. Yeah.
How did you reel it? Did you like tap or did you pull? Like
you just hold A.
Oh,
you go left and right.
Oh my God, dude, drives me nuts, man.
To this day, I don't really understand how it works. I just go left to right. Sometimes I would switch it up, like whatever worked.
Oh my God, dude. And the game, the worst is the games where the line can snap, and then you have to buy more bait.
Oh no. You won't catch me playing those,
dude. It's so bad, man. Yeah. So yeah, that's probably my biggest offender. So the random ones, worst,
right?
Complete worst. At least
they're just unfun.
It's not. It's like why even have it in there? You know. I guess really quick though, we were talking about the slot machine thing, and it's like that was super annoying. But in Dragon Quest XI, I remember the slot machine. There was some semblance of skill to it, I think, because it was like I was saying with the dice thing, like you could roll it and then you could like lock something, I think, and then be able to re-roll. And you had to like get the little like slime through the level,
right? And
you would like fight things.
Yeah, I can't remember the mechanic exactly. I spent a lot of time too.
Yeah, that one was pretty fun. So yeah, why don't we talk about like as game developers, what makes the perfect minigame or a memorable minigame?
You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
All right. What makes a fun minigame?
Like if you were to design one from scratch right now. Let's say it's in an RPG also.
Okay. I think RPG elements are pretty fun.
To include in the minigame.
Yes.
Okay.
So obviously skill based.
Yeah.
I do like skill based games. I'd say something that you can definitely see that you get better at the more you play it. And something that incorporates some RPG like mechanics, like for example, you can level up characters in it, or like Wheels is a good example. You just kind of level up your characters and as you play through it, and it's fun. First and foremost, it's fun. It's not frustrating, and also like that feeling that you're instanced away from the game. I feel like that makes it more immersive. And then also like I guess just nice visuals. Kind of feeling like completely different from what your game traditionally looks like.
Yeah,
it really just kind of makes it feel more like a mini game because it's so different that it almost takes you out of that original experience and you kind of have a different experience. So
yeah, I would agree. I think just to add on to it, and you kind of said it was just RPG mechanics, but I personally like games that along the journey you keep going back to the mini game with new stuff. Either if it is a new ability within the world that integrates, or it's something you collect like a card or a character or whatever, I think that's cool, because then you start to feel like you're mastering the mini game, as opposed to it's just like a one-off thing. You're like, oh, this was fun, whatever, and then you're done with it. Sometimes those are all right if they're pretty simple, but yeah, I like it's almost like a whole video game within your video game kind of feeling.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Let's talk about the programming maybe, or like the concept of adding mini games into video games, because if there's any game devs out there that are watching the podcast, maybe you're curious about this, because you for mini games, typically, especially if they're so different from your game, you have to set aside that time to really go in and build those mechanics out, right?
That's true.
And I like with the new versions of Unity, there's new input systems. So if you aren't using the new input Unity system, I would definitely check that out, because you can really easily switch between different control sets. And I feel like that's such a game changer when it comes to making mini games, or like segmenting a certain set of controls to something else, because back in the day when we were first developing,
program it from scratch.
When we were first developing Mask of Semblance and we had that grave game, we had to basically say, hey, player, if you're playing the grave thing, don't move
the main character as well.
Don't move the yeah, exactly. Yeah. But now all you need to do is you just say, I don't want to use this move set anymore, or this set of controls, switch to a different one. And now you have the peace of mind of knowing that you're not going to move around your character while you're playing a mini game or something. Yeah. So
I think that being said too, that's another testament to why I'm like so amazed by Final Fantasy, because all of these mini games, it's like a team had to sit there and be like, how are we going to do this? What are we going to include in this? Is it going to build off of itself like the card game, or is it just going to be a one-off thing? Is it fun? And it's like, dude, they're literally having to make these whole games within the game, and it is like you're literally having to redo everything from scratch at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Because with a mini game that's very different from your main mechanics, it's like obviously you don't have a basis, unless, I don't know, it's Square Enix. I'm sure they've got maybe code from some other game that they've been able to integrate. But for like an indie dev, like, they're doing this all from scratch.
Right.
So,
and if there's like a game where Cloud needs to like carry a box, it's like somebody needs to go tell somebody, go make an animation where Cloud is holding a box.
Yeah.
So we can build this mini game.
Yeah. It's crazy
so it's
how
just crazy
intricate
how much
it is.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. Cool. All right. Well, I think this is a good spot to close out episode 2. Thank you all for joining us. If you wouldn't mind subscribing, because we're going to be putting out an episode every single week. And join us next time for more talk about games and game development.
Like and share with your friends.
Yes.
If they like video games.
Definitely.
And definitely get in touch with us if you want to chat games or talk about anything developer related.
Join our Discord and go Wishlist Travelers Refrain on Steam as well.
Thanks,
See you guys next time. Bye.